Next, we'll move to file item 26, Mr. Dababneh.
Mr. Chair, members, I'm pleased to be here today to present Assembly Bill 1198, which creates the California Credit Enhancement Program, or CCEP, within the California School Finance Authority to provide lower cost alternatives for charter school facilities financing through a leveraged public-private partnership program. Currently, charter public schools do not receive dedicated facility funding. Under AB 1198, charter schools will be able to secure financing rates similar to district schools and will allow them to achieve significant savings and invest these funds directly into the classroom. I would like to thank the committee for all their hard work on this bill, and I accept all four of the committee's amendments to clarify the purpose of this bill and to require the CSFA to establish regulations outlining the program. I also want to give a special thanks to the chair for his leadership on this. With me today to testify on behalf of the bill are Moira Top with CCSA Advocates and Delphine Sherman with Aspire Public Schools. I also have Nicole Watson, Facilities Advisor for the CCSA, and Eugene Clark Herrera with ORIC here for technical assistance and questions. I know they will keep their commentary short. I also would like to state that in the San Fernando Valley, where my district is, we have several of the largest charter schools in the country. Many of those are union schools as well, and they provide parents with ample choice in our community to make sure that their number one investment, their children, are given an education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dababneh. Your two witnesses, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Moira Top here on behalf of the California Charter Schools Association Advocates. We are the sponsors of the measure, and we also appreciate all of your work and your staff's work to improve the bill. Facilities, finding the right, appropriate, affordable facilities has been a challenge and continues to be one of the biggest challenges charter schools face. The State Treasurer's Office runs a number of programs today that are effective and efficient, and this bill builds on those effective and efficient programs to create a new program that, if and when funded, would actually enable charter schools to borrow money more cheaply. That's the sum total of what the intent of the bill is to do, is to, instead of our borrowing costs and high interest rates going to Wall Street, that we keep the money here in California and in California classrooms. With me, we've been working with ORIC as our bond counsel to craft this bill and make it sound from a financial perspective. He's here to answer any technical questions, and we do ask for your support.
Thank you. Your next witness.
Mr. Chair and members, my name is Delphine Sherman, and I am the Chief Financial Officer for Aspire Public Schools. I am here today to urge your aye vote on AB 1198. Founded in 1999, Aspire Public Schools is a network of 35 charter public schools serving nearly 15,000 students in California K through 12. Our schools are in the Bay Area, Central Valley, and Greater Los Angeles area. Our mission is to open and operate small, high-quality charter schools in low-income neighborhoods in order to increase the academic performance of underserved students and catalyze change in public schools. For the last 4 years, every Aspire graduating senior has earned acceptance to a four-year college. As the previous speakers mentioned, facilities are one of the most difficult challenges charter schools face, and we do not receive any dedicated facilities funding. Our facilities costs must be covered by our general operating revenue. Aspire Public Schools has been more fortunate than some charters. In 2005, we entered into a long-term capital lease with Lodi Unified School District. The district went to the bond market on our behalf and secured an interest rate of 4.5%, and we leased the facility from the district. Aspire on its own would not have been able to secure such a low interest rate in 2005. Unfortunately, not all charter schools have a great relationship with their authorizer, so this is not an option available to them. In 2010, we closed on a $93 million public bond offering in order to open 10 permanent facilities, which is our biggest financing deal to date. However, we're paying a premium for these facilities of about 6.5% interest when districts are able to secure much lower funding rates. If AB 1198 were to become law, Aspire and many charter schools that serve public school students would be able to save on facility costs. The money we could save on financing or refinancing our loans could be put directly back into the classroom. For example, at Aspire Golden State College Preparatory Academy, a 612 in Oakland.
Thank you. If you could sum up.
I urge your aye vote on AB 1198.
Thank you. Do we have any members of the public?
Paul Kiefer, Pacific Charter Institute, in support.
Thank you. Any persons in opposition to the bill? Seeing no opposition to the bill, any members of the committee wish to comment?
Move the bill.
It's been moved and it's been seconded. Let me just make a couple comments. This sounds good in concept, Mr. Dubovne. I think we just need to establish some parameters and make sure that the state isn't committing to any significant situations where we might have liabilities down the road. But I'm supportive today. So.
Thank you.
With that, do you want to close quickly?
I would just like to echo your comments. This program simply sets up the framework to allow these schools to have a better opportunity to get financing at a lower cost, which means more classrooms built, more teachers hired, more young people educated, and that, I think, is a goal that we should all aspire to. Thank you, and I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. If you call the roll, please.
The motion is due pass as amended to Appropriations Committee. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, I. Chavez?
Aye.
Chavez, I. Kim?
Aye.
Kim, I. McCarty?
Aye.
McCarty, I. Santiago? Thurmond? Thurmond, I. Weber? It's out.
It's out. The bill is out. Next, we'll have Mr. Chow, file item number 29, AB 1258 by Mr. Chow.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members. Good afternoon. This afternoon, I'm presenting AB 1258. First of all, I want to thank the committee for making suggestions on the amendments, and I'm happy to accept them. AB 1258 establishes a private-public partnership computer science education grant pilot program to support innovative ways of introducing and engaging students from historically underrepresented groups to computer science. Specifically, the bill would establish the Computer Science Education Grant, which is a 5-year pilot program under the administration of the Superintendent of Public Instruction. The program has two components. First, it would provide grants to establish and maintain computer science courses in underserved areas. Number two, it would provide professional development for educators to teach computer science either as a standalone course or as an integrated into other courses. On the one hand, we need to provide more resources and training for teachers to teach computer science, and on the other hand, we want to improve the participation and success of the underrepresented populations in the field of study. Thank you. AB 1258 will incentivize school districts to support the innovative ways to introduce and engage students from historically underrepresented groups to computer science with the assistance of private donors such as tech industry on a matching basis. I have two witnesses here to testify. First of all, Mr. Barry Brokaw from Microsoft, and then followed by Isabel Garcia from the CTA.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. A pleasure to be here. Computer science is part of the DNA of Microsoft, and by 2020, an estimated 4.6 million computer-related jobs will be available in the U.S. for those with computer science skills. But many educational institutions in the United States haven't been able to keep up with the pace of technological growth, and students have been left without fundamental computer science skills. Just as an example, of the more than 42,000 high schools across this country, fewer than 3,250 were certified to teach advanced placement computer science courses in 2013. That's far under 10%. Computer science AP tests amounted to less than 1% of the tests taken by high school students in 2013. 1%. The top 5 were English, U.S. history, calculus, government, psychology, and world history. No computer science. Labor data shows that during every year of this decade, the economy will create more than 120,000 new jobs that will require a bachelor's degree in computer sciences. And our colleges and universities are producing just over 50,000 of those degree holders. So the math is pretty clear. Microsoft is grateful for the legislature really turning your attention to this problem over the last couple of years. The analysis notes the many bills addressing pieces of the problem, several of which gained bipartisan support and passage and the signature of the governor. We think 1258 is a strong continued movement. We respectfully urge your support, and I'm also here for TechNet, who was not here but supports the bill as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members, Isabel Garcia, on behalf of the California Teachers Association, we encourage an enthusiastic support for this innovative bill. We support the bill for two main reasons. First, we think it will substantially increase the number of educators who are interested in acquiring and expanding their knowledge and skills necessary to teach computer science courses through high-quality professional development so that they can meet the technology needs of our 21st century students. And lastly, we think that the bill will significantly improve access to computer science courses for students that are historically underrepresented in the field of computer science. For those reasons, we ask your support and thank the author for his leadership on the issue.
Thank you. Any members of the public wish to comment in support? Any opposition present today? Seeing no opposition, any members of the committee wish to comment? Yes?
I have a question, actually, to the author. Two-part, actually, because your bill is actually in two parts. First of all, it says establishes a new categorical grant program to promote computer science education. Obviously, I support this important curriculum, but my concern stems from the fact that creating a categorical grant program is contradictory to the policy of local control the legislature embraced when we adopted local control funding formula. So could you speak to that and make sure that the state will not be mandated to provide additional funding?
Absolutely. Thank you for your question, first of all. The intent is not to create a separate categorical program under this particular pilot project. In fact, it is different from any other regular categorical program in the sense that this is not a mandate. This does not mandate the school or any particular school district to adopt this particular plan. It is a voluntary, totally voluntary basis. So if a school district, for example, is interested in this matching grant, then all they need to do is to earmark certain dollar for dollar, to the fund which is in the setup for the trust fund. So, for school districts that do not want to participate, then they don't need to do that whatsoever. So, it's not really a categorical program per se, but because of the way that the money is being collected.
Okay. Well, second part is the discriminating against charter schools. I do have a problem with that because I do support charter schools, which I think it's good. But would your bill allow charter schools to also have the opportunity to apply for those grants if this bill is moved forward?
It does not make any mention about charter school in the bill itself. Currently, so it does not discriminate against any particular school.
Your second part of the bill says discriminates against charter schools by only allowing school districts to apply for grants under the proposed program.
It's I'll be happy to look into it.
It's the language of your bill, so could you clarify that, please?
Absolutely.
So I do not want the charter schools to be discriminated.
But I think, Mr. Chow, your intent is to work with the interested parties and potentially even include charter schools.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I'll be fine with that.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Seeing no further comment from the committee, just a couple comments. I have some reservations about creating another categorical program. I think you've probably heard that a little bit.
Sure.
But I do appreciate that we're seeking private funds here. And the underlying, recognition, that you recognize that computer science is very important and should be taught at the lower grades. Coding should be taught in the first grade, from where I come from. But anyways, we'll get there someday. With that, do we have a motion? We need a second. We have a motion and a second, Madam Secretary. Or do you want to close quickly, please?
I respectfully ask for a vote.
Thank you.
The motion is do pass as amended to appropriations. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez? Kim?
Aye.
Kim, aye. McCarty? McCarty, aye. Santiago? Thurmond? Aye. Thurmond, aye. Weber?
It's out.
The bill is out.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Next, we'll have Mr. Hadley with AB 803, which is file item number 12. File item number 12. Mr. Hadley, you may proceed.
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you very much. AB 803 will allow parents and concerned citizens to form new locally controlled school districts. This will increase accountability and parental involvement and enable parents to do more to control their children's educational destinies. AB 803 is not a district bill. Its provisions are statewide, and I believe a number of communities would benefit. But my district has provided me with a unique vantage point to see the benefits of local control and engaged parents. The majority of my district consists of small, locally controlled school districts. These are some of the most highly rated school districts in the state. I should also point out that these are traditional public schools. The teachers are union members, and there is very little charter school activity in this portion of my district. It seems like the ultimate win-win. Good public schools, helping students and the local economy, and the CTA has lots of members. The remainder of my district is in the largest school district in the state. Parents do not feel they have the same input into their kids' educations in this portion of my district. It is also here where most of the charter school activity is in my district, parents looking for options for their kids. The goal of AB 803 is to streamline the process by which cities or communities of interest can create new districts. This process should not be easy or quick. There are a number of important issues to address, but it should be possible. I believe that the parents and voters of all communities should have the same opportunity to control their kids' educational destinies as the parents and voters of most of the cities in my district, including my wife and myself. Under AB 803, a city could initiate the process of forming a new school district in one of two ways. Either the City Council could pass a resolution by majority vote to initiate the process, or residents could submit a petition signed by that number of the city's registered voters equal to at least 10% of the votes cast in the last gubernatorial election. Once the process is initiated, the bill calls for a strategic planning and negotiation process, with the resulting plan being subject to a vote by the residents of the potential new school district. I'd like to thank the committee staff for working with us on this bill. With their input, we have made a number of changes. We are also ready to support other amendments that we didn't quite receive in time to make this hearing. Ultimately, however, we did not accept one of the staff's suggestions that the residents of the predecessor school district should all vote on the new district. This is about local control, not about giving the predecessor district the right to veto change. And then finally, I would just like to respond in advance to one possible objection. At one time in the history of California educational finance, a fair criticism of this bill would have been that it would have enabled communities with more affluent residents and better funding to flee their less fortunate neighbors. However, with the advent of the local control funding formula, that is no longer a valid reason to object to this approach to achieve local control. I really believe that local control, locally controlled school districts, engaged parents, plus the math of the local control funding formula is really a recipe for creating quality public schools for all of California's children. So I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Any witnesses in support?
Have not brought any with me.
Okay. Any witnesses in opposition?
Good evening. Eric Bach with the Los Angeles Unified School District. Regretfully, Los Angeles must oppose the bill offered by one of our school district delegates. Unfortunately, AB 803 would establish a process in which local agencies can initiate a school district reorganization process without input from the affected school district or community. As the analysis states, existing law already established the process to initiate a school district reorganization. This process requires a petition to be signed by 25% of the registered voters of the proposed territory before the proposal is heard in a public hearing by the county. AB 803 differs in that it would allow a local agency or city council to initiate such a proposal with a resolution approved by a majority vote of its members. AB 803 would require the county and the local agency that initiated the proposal to hold a joint hearing on that proposal. Furthermore, the county and the local agency would jointly grant or deny that proposal. In essence, the local agency that initiated the proposal will oversee a hearing on its own proposal and then would be permitted to grant or deny its own proposal. Under the existing process, the county would solely make that finding. AB 803 would deny a voice for the affected school district and the community from participating in the process until the local agency has granted their own proposal. The reorganization of a school district should have a higher threshold and seek greater public participation than what AB 803 provides. More importantly, the school districts affected should be the only local public agencies involved in this discussion. For these reasons, LAUSD respectfully requests a no vote. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, Nancy Chidas-Espinosa with the California School Boards Association, also regretfully in opposition to this bill. The clause in the bill that allows other local agencies to petition for school district reorganization would effectively make local educational agencies subordinate to other local governments, and that's would set a precedent that's of great concern for us. Similarly, I want to echo something that was stated in the analysis, that the bill would set a precedent for allowing only a subset of voters who are affected by an issue to vote on it. That concerns us as well. We're sympathetic to the local issue that that inspired the bill. I understand the author said it's not only his intention to address that issue, but the effect would be to disenfranchise voters across the state. Our priority is local control as well, and when we're talking about voting on resources that are created by the use of our own tax dollars, that's what we see as local control. So I respectfully ask for your no vote.
Thank you. Any further witnesses in opposition? Seeing no further opposition, any members of the committee wish to comment? I'll just have just a few observations here, Mr. Hadley. I think there's already a process in place to address this issue, and you would, in fact, disenfranchise some voters through a venture like this at the local level. And I do have concerns that we'd actually be removing some local control if the state passes a bill like this. So I can't support you today. I can't. But I do appreciate you bringing this forward. With that, did you wish to close? Okay. Did you wish to close?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your remarks. I would like to speak to this concept of local control. One of the cities I represent, just to use this as an example, again, this is a statewide bill. One of the cities I represent is the city of Gardena. Gardena has fewer than 70,000 residents. Gardena is in LA Unified. Under current state law, the voters of the entire territory of LA Unified, millions of people, would be required to vote on a process by which Gardena could establish its own school board. That's not local control. That would be that's not local control. That is a massive school district overriding the wishes of the parents and the voters of Gardena as to how the students of Gardena should best be educated. The last territory to form a new local school district out of LA Unified that I'm aware of is the city of Torrance in 1947. My home city, the city of Manhattan Beach, established its own school district and severed from LA Unified in 1912. I can tell you that every parent and every student in the cities of the South Bay who went through that experience are glad that their predecessors, their community leaders, 70 years ago, over 100 years ago, took control of their schools for the benefit of their communities and their students. And I believe that's what local control is all about, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll. Oh, we have a question. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I just wanted to know if you'd consider the financial impact of creating a new district. And I ask this because I am aware of cities that have said that they wanted to leave a unified district and create their own. What they didn't consider is that for most unified districts, they are tied together financially, and that should one city pull out of that unified district, that city by itself doesn't have the financial resources to really support all of its needs because there's so many shared things, the overhead and how the district gets run. There's so many shared costs, and the loss of that district hurts the former district and the new district's ability to operate, which is why I'm concerned and I can't support this measure. Have you considered the financial impact of a city trying to create a standalone district and not having the revenue to actually operate the district successfully?
Sure, absolutely, and thank you for the question, Mr. Thurmond. First of all, we should remember that this process culminates in a vote of the residents of the new school district, and it's obviously incumbent upon the creators of a plan and the marketing of that plan and the community support behind that plan to get people comfortable that the financial resources are there to educate the students of that new school district in the way that they that they want their kids to be educated. The smallest school district in my assembly district, the city of Hermosa Beach, is fewer than 20,000 residents and obviously far fewer students. And they meet their needs and they educate their own children through 8th grade in their own schools, and they contract with other cities for their high schools, which is not uncommon for small school districts. There are lots of ways to do the how, and obviously if a plan can't command the support of that community, that plan's never going to get off the ground. But we need to give the rights of the parents of Gardena, of Lomita, of communities around the state the ability to take control of the education of their students, of their kids.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just simply want to thank you for the proposal. I'm probably not going to vote for it because there's a lot of complex pieces to it. But I know that LA Unified is too large, period. I mean, when you look at it, because it covers not only just a geographical area, there's so many municipalities thrown into it, and it's always something there that people want to separate from or divide districts. And I know they've had the issue of the valley, and as the city has grown, it's just encompassed all these districts, and it makes it very complex and very difficult to manage. And so I think sometimes the smaller areas feel a little disenfranchised in that process. So I appreciate the conversation. Clearly it's something that needs to be discussed at the state level, maybe about the size of districts and the municipalities and how many, because it covers an awful lot of cities, places I never thought about. And then in the interim, there are little pockets within it, like Inglewood and this group and that group, that's in the middle of this, and so the surrounding areas are LA Unified, and yet there's these little pockets. So it's very interesting and very complex, but I feel your pain, and I understand that, and hopefully there'll be some additional conversations at some point about how districts should be organized and how many mayors and city councils and all those kinds of things it has to deal with. Yes.
Well, Ms. Weber, thank you. And I this is a complex issue. I agree, and I pledge to work with the members of this committee and our chamber on this. It is a critically important issue, and I would love to work with you on it.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to appropriations. O'Donnell?
No.
O'Donnell, no. Chavez?
Yes.
Chavez, aye. Kim?
Yes.
Kim, aye. McCarty? No. McCarty, no. Santiago? Thurmond? Thurmond, no. Weber? No. Weber, no.
The bill fails.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask for reconsideration?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Hearing no opposition, that is granted. With that, we'll move to Mr. Jones Sawyer, file item number 18. That's 18. It's AB 1012. Ms. Chang, you're next. Smile. There we go. Mr. Jones Sawyer, you may
Thank you.
begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. AB 1012, fake classes. I'd like to begin by accepting the committee's first, second, and fourth amendments listed in the analysis, and would like to acknowledge and thank the committee staff's help. Tanya has been exceptional in helping us on the bill to avoid unintended consequences. AB 1012 will prohibit school districts from assigning any pupil to a course period without educational content. It was 61 years ago that the NAACP and Thurgood Marshall prevailed in striking down the notion that separate schools can be equal. Supreme Court Justice California's Earl Warren delivered the decision in unambiguous terms. In the field of education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. We should all be proud that California's Constitution enshrines the right of an equal education should be available to every student. But the journey is not yet completed. It is a long road, and AB 1020 is another step on that journey. Nothing establishes equality more than simply a guarantee that every student get an equal amount of instructional time for California's credentialed teachers. It's a simple and basic rule. But there are public schools in California where we are not achieving that equality matrix. I am so proud that today's generation of NAACP's leaders have joined me in addressing this inequality and that they are here to speak out in support of the bill. When I went to school, homeroom did not mean being sent home. But it happens today. It's happening today. Kids are sent home for homeroom. They're deprived from their equal educational opportunity. Other kids are being warehoused in contentless, fake, no-credit classes where nothing is being taught or learned. I recognize that the bill before you needs some work. It is work I am committed to do because I believe that those who have raised the objections are doing so in good faith, and I have faith that we will evolve to a work product that we can all stand behind. Here today to testify is Beverly Tucker, who is the former board member of the ACLU of Northern California and former general counsel of the California Teachers Association, and Edwin Perez from the NAACP. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Good afternoon. Beverly Tucker, Board Chair of the ACLU of Northern California. AB 1012 would limit the current practice of schools offering classes without any educational content, which we refer to as fake classes. It would establish a statewide process for providing technical assistance and support to school districts that find themselves relying on instruction-free classes to fill out course schedules at one or more of their schools. We have conducted interviews among pupils in Compton, LA Unified, and Oakland Unified, and we have identified students who have been assigned to homeroom, i.e. being sent home, being assigned to the cafeteria for 2 or 3 weeks at a time at the beginning of the school year because there were no classes available. And then we have also identified students who have been assigned to take courses that they had already taken and finished with a passing grade. These practices are absolutely unacceptable. They disadvantage those students who are at most need of a real education and real instructional content. This happens predominantly in school districts with high proportions of Black, Latino, and disadvantaged students, and it is totally unacceptable. Currently, this practice, oddly enough, unbelievably enough, is not prohibited in any way by the Education Code. So this bill would require school districts to monitor this practice, to report to the state superintendent if they learn that students are being assigned to classes with no instructional content, and then the school districts would not be punished because of this, but they would be provided with technical assistance by the state superintendent's office to remedy the situation. And we think that this is absolutely essential to carry out the California Constitution's mandate that students, all California students, be afforded equal educational opportunity. Thank you.
Greetings, Chairman and members. My name is Edwin Perez. I am the legislative advocate for the California NAACP. On behalf of our 62 branches and our youth units, we are in strong support of AB 1012. The NAACP believes every child deserves a high-quality education that will provide them with diverse opportunities. These filler courses inhibit students from excelling academically, prevent them from taking full advantage of their time that they're in school, and most importantly, deprive them of a real education. Assigning students to classes that have no educational content is fundamentally incongruent to the basic principles of a school, and unfortunately, like you just said, this happens in communities of high population of African American kids and Latino kids. I read an article in the LA Times covering filler courses at Jefferson High School. A high school senior by the name of Armani Richards wanted to pursue a career in STEM, science, tech, engineering, and math, a field that traditionally doesn't have much African American representation. He attempted to enroll in courses that will help him develop a skill set in chemistry or computer science. Instead, Richards and hundreds of other students were placed in overbooked classrooms, given the same courses multiple times a day, or assigned to service periods in which they did absolutely nothing. These filler courses leads to disparities in graduation rates, which leads to disparities in college acceptance rates, which leads to disparities in employment. I attended a hearing not too long ago in which a gentleman said that companies in Silicon Valley have to go overseas to hire talented individuals as opposed to hiring people in the state of California. And while I do believe that California is home of the best and brightest minds in the country, we must take a second and look at these schools to ensure that they are nurturing these minds to the best of their abilities. And so for that, AB 1012 ensures that when a student enters a classroom, that they have the opportunity to learn, grow, and reach their full potential. On behalf of the California, Hawaii State, and AACP, we urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Any members of the public wish to comment in support?
With that voice in support.
Thank you. Seeing no further support.
Catherine Williams with the ACLU of California in support.
Okay, thank you. Any opposition? Please come forward.
Laura Preston, Association of California School Administrators. We have an opposed unless amended position on the bill, and the bill is ever moving, so I'm hoping what I say is going to be relevant to what the amendments have been taken. Our biggest concern is that we in no way are going to condone what has happened in these districts. That is not why we're in opposition. Our concern is that this is a far-reaching approach to impact every single school district in the state, when we've only found this happening in a few districts. And we would add that we think part of the problem with this, where everybody talks about management, we don't have enough counselors. This is the role of counselors, to help in the master scheduling, to help with making sure these types of things don't happen. And what happens in this bill, where we're really concerned about, is there is a capacity issue for school districts. And I tell the staff, I said, I always look at legislation through the eyes of a high school principal, because they have probably the most untenable job on the planet, and having to juggle many, many things. We're talking about evaluations, and that we're going to have principals evaluating teachers. We're talking about all these things. And this bill puts in really an individual process for every single student on the different things we're going to have to find out if every student, if we're placing them in the right place, if we're not, get access from or approval from the parent or guardian, and put that in the individual student's file. While we don't argue that every student is individually important, that capacity for us is going to be insurmountable. And so for those reasons, we are still in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Tony Triguero on behalf of the California Teachers Association. We have a watch position on the bill, and we've worked diligently with the bill sponsors. We've not reached agreement. We want to publicly compliment the staff on the amazing analysis that was done. Unless we can reach agreement on the bill, we're going to have to move to an opposed position, and I just wanted to be on the record that we've tried to work with the staff, the author staff, and the sponsors, and we continue to open the access to those conversations and hope that we can reach some agreement. But we think the bill is premature. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further opposition? Any comments from the committee? Seeing none.
So moved.
The bill's been moved. I'll second it. Mr. Jones-Sawyer, you may close.
We received the opposition letter on Monday, and we've made some amazing steps and strides to reach some kind of consensus. For us, the most important thing is to ensure that every student gets quality education, even if it only affects one student. That's the most important thing. And so my staff will work with CTA and with the administrators to ensure that we don't make it difficult. For example, if the number of classes that we're looking at are too broad, we'll gladly bring it in to address the specific fake classes that we want to drill down like a laser to get to. And so you have my assurance that if we get out of this committee, that we will diligently work with the opponents of this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Jones-Sawyer. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is do pass with amendments to the Appropriations Committee. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez? Kim? Aye. Kim, aye. McCarty?
Aye.
McCarty, aye. Santiago? Thurman?
Aye.
Thurman, aye. Weber?
Aye.
Weber, aye.
The bill is out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Jones Sawyer. Ms. Chang.